Chairperson of the Salary and Remuneration Commission. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you, John.
Mrs. Serem, I would put it to you that perhaps you have at least a thankless and at worst the hopeless task of trying to advise national and county governments on the remuneration and benefits of all other public officers under the new constitutional dispensation. How would you respond to my pessimistic view of your job?
Depending on who is receiving that statement, it could be true. Thankless, of course, for those who have been used to a different history of doing things, those who have been used to determining their own salaries without any systems. And of course, when you come in with a radical change of saying that has to stop, then definitely that is not good news. But for the many of the Kenyans that are waiting for systems that will ensure that the disparities that we have seen in the public sector, the systems that have not existed in determining the wage and the salaries for the entire public sector, it is a welcome change.
Ms. Serem, why has it taken so long to create systems? We're 50 years old this year. Are you a blanket condemnation of everything that has come before? I seem to remember having had relations who worked for something called the Public Service Commission. Was their work a complete waste of time in all these years?
Absolutely not. I think we evolve over time, and systems and policies are created depending on the needs. I would want to say that the Kenyan system have probably some of the systems that, if well implemented, would be one of the best systems that we have now. The reason why the Salaries and Remuneration Commission was established, and looking at the merit of it now, is for reason that every of those systems have used their own ways of determining salaries for their employees.
So you're going to have a centralized system.
So what
you're
has
going to
been
have a big sort of focus point where you basically will be telling us how much we ought to earn.
Indeed,
or
yes.
your commission.
Indeed, yes. That's the whole object of
the exercise.
The focused approach to determining the wage bill.
But then I would have thought, Mrs. Serem, that at this point in the game, you might have told us what to expect and set up a plan and said, under my leadership, those of you who are teachers, this is what you might expect. Why does everybody pin the future on this magical date, March the 4th, the date of the general elections, without announcing anything? So in other words, you're going to be making up your minds and your decisions as you go along. You've done no research so far, and you're waiting until March the 4th, then you'll work it out.
That's a very wrong statement, John. We walked in, and part of the expectation was that we will be announcing what the public sector will be earning, like yesterday.
Exactly.
Indeed, we also thought that we came in late, because we ought to have been there to set the house before the children come in.
Exactly.
But you will notice that these are things that have been happening over the years, and therefore you need systems. Systems will not.
But you're saying, Mrs. Serem, that your hands have been tied. That sort of bureaucratic speak that I wanted to do something, but thus far my hands have been tied.
It's not a boardroom decision. It's not one thing that you walk in and you say, John will be earning this from today. For you to arrive at that, you need to do what we call the benchmarking, because we need to ensure that what we are paying is what is applicable within the system. We need to analyze to get to see the sustainability of the same, because one of the principal factors for the salaries and remuneration is to ensure that total wage bill is sustainable. And for you to do that, you need to interrogate that.
But the given in our society, and you've led institutions, you've led the Post Bank, you've led Mamiya Sugar. This whole idea, the whole budget, 75% of it goes to current expenditure. So this little 25% is what you're playing around with. And you're going to say that I still go back to this thing of thankless and hopeless task, because there'll be a complete disconnect between what Sarah Serem is saying ought to happen and what I, as a presidential candidate, are promising the electorate once I get voted in. Because I could go in saying teachers will be paid double, and I as president say that. Therefore, all your work up until that time I'll just ignore. Because under my 4-year term, that's what I'm saying, I promise the masses. So are you speaking to individual candidates and saying, come what come may, you have to accept the benchmarks that we offer to you? I think not. I think not.
You know, the days of political statements in the management of salaries are far gone for now.
That's not
With
our
the
recent.
establishment.
That is not our recent. I think Honourable Nyachai, or maybe he's not to be called
Yes.
Honourable Nyachai, but certainly Mr. Charles Nyachai was arguing very forcefully about the outgoing 10th Parliament riding roughshod against all the constitutional indications and saying we will award ourselves state funerals, mass burnings of coffins outside Parliament buildings. Are these good signs? Because you evoke the child, you know, we prepare the room before the child comes in. The child is very disappointed at this stage of the game.
May I assure you now, John, with everybody else listening, that the wage bill and the remuneration will not be determined by the statements of the politicians anymore. We have already moved in. We have done a job evaluation, evaluating.
Who is we, by the way? Who is we?
Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
How many are you?
Salaries and Remuneration Commission may be a number, but we are standing in on behalf of the rest of the Kenyans.
You know, Mrs. Serem,
Yes.
whenever people in your position talk about commissions, you are the team leader. As long as everything goes extremely well, you come and say, my team did such and such. When things go extremely badly, you hide behind the veil of saying, we are a commission and we decided. And we're talking about who are these people? Are they true professionals? Are they more well-versed in the mechanics of earning money for an
Yes.
economy? Are they better equipped than I am just reading an economic newspaper?
We have been drawn from all sectors in terms of qualifications and the qualities of the leaders. Indeed, for them to have been elected or selected to be commissioners in Salaries and Remuneration Commission, they had to have what it takes to do it.
That doesn't speak to the history of our nation thus far. You cannot go back and say that the people that we've had in positions of leadership deserve to be there in terms of merit. Unless this again is going to start on March the 4th, this magical day when all our troubles are gone, Mrs. Serem.
I will tell you, John, they are very good people in this country. I think it was
I dare say they are.
They are very good people in this country. We have the skills we need. I think it was more about the utilization of the same. The team I have confidence because they have very good experience.
But you can't, for example, name the number so that we can see the number of people who are geared. Is it 5 people, 10 people, 100 people?
The commission has a total of 12 members, 3 of whom are ex-officials who are also coming in with the kind of qualities and experience that we need as a commission. The rest of the other members have been selected by the various government bodies like the Parliamentary Service Commission, the Judicial Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, the Teacher Service Commission. We have some from the Police Service Commission who is yet to report. We have literally a cross-section of the entire expertise that would require to drive the commission. And I have every confidence.
Let's go back one. When are we going to have the commission's report in the public domain? Is there a date for that?
By the way, we have released our first report.
Right.
We have had quite a few of public participation in terms of the determination. We came up with our regulations, which gives us the interface between us and our stakeholders. That is already going in for
Mr. Serem, each and every chairman of a commission who's been on this interview platform has said exactly what you're saying. We've got all the instruments in place. We're all ready to trans out boundaries. But people are now vying, for example, to become governor. And they're so committed to the cause of becoming governor that they're prepared to beat each other to a pulp to become governor without knowing what they're going to earn. It leads me to another line of thinking. In Western societies, to be a public servant is, in metaphorical terms, to earn next to nothing. If you want to make really big money, Mrs. Serem, you go into the private sector. Now, the African culture, let us say, Africa is a big continent, let us say the Kenyan culture is that if you really, really want to make big money, go into government. It's government that is the cash cow. Yet we're promising our people that this time round government's going to change. Again, thankless, hopeless task, you are going to meet a lot of resistance, and in your own lifetime you may not achieve this cultural change.
You could be very right when you're talking about at this point in time, it is the government that takes the show in terms of the benefits that they are giving to its members. But I can guarantee you something, it's changing. We didn't release the information ahead of time because we did not want to tell you, John, that we want you to vie for this because this is what you will be drawing from it.
So you're trying to suggest that I might get this rude shock. I'll be governor one day and end up earning less than I did when I set out to become governor. Is this a scoop that we're hearing for the first time on the JSO interview?
The very obvious thing is we are certain that we will determine those benefits before the next government. We are not even talking about the magic for the date.
Right.
We are releasing this information long before because we want, as they come in, they're coming in with already set terms and conditions of service. We will not allow...
Before March the 4th?
Long before March the 4th.